there, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive and I'm Meghna Deka. Today the focus is going to be Virat Kohli. Did Virat Kohli cross the line? Did he cross that Lakshman Rekha with his shoulder nudge and the way he behaved on screen with an Australian debutant, a 19-year-old? What about the death stare? Was it justified? Well, it may not be a very pleasant bit of news to hear for the fans of Indian cricket, but Virat Kohli, the swashbuckling player, has been penalised by the ICC 20% of his match fees following his on-air altercation with the Australia cricketer Sam Konstas. Now, Kohli has also been awarded 1 demerit point for breaching level 1 of the ICC Code of Conduct amid the ongoing Border Gavaskar Trophy. The drama, of course, ensued right from the first session. It all started at the end of the 10th over. 19-year-old Sam Konstas, he was playing his first ever international test match. He was seen crossing over to the other side of the pitch, and then the both of them had a shoulder bump. Virat Kohli, also walking opposite side of the pitch, then can be seen bumping into the Australian opener, leading to a tense exchange of words. Soon, the other players also had to intervene. Now, taking cognizance of the incident, the International Cricket Council has found fault with Virat Kohli's behaviour. In fact, he has been now penalised 20% of his match fees and also 1 demerit point. However, there will be no official hearing. And Virat Kohli has already accepted all the sanctions. Now, after the day's play, Konstas has also addressed the media. In fact, he's spoken about the incident, saying that he and Virat Kohli are overwhelmed by the emotions at the moment. And he also seemed to try to play it down. He said, essentially, incidents like this are quite common in cricket. Here, this 19-year-old.
Yeah, I'll answer your first one. I was just doing my gloves and I think he accidentally bumped me, but I think that's just cricket, just the tension, and I think for me, just having that freedom and just backing myself and just trying to bring the best version of each ball. So lucky enough to get a few runs today.
Well, many have said that it is rather interesting that Australia is accusing India of sledging. So let's take you across to some of the past sledging instances by Australians. 2020, remember, you had the Australian captain Tim Paine. He admitted to sledging R. Ashwin. There are similar such examples. In 2014, you had David Warner versus Varun Aaron, which had played out on the pitch. In fact, Warner had mocked Varun Aaron, saying after his wicket had backfired. Another instance, for example, you had Vernon Philander versus Michael Clarke. You had the Australian captain Clarke's racial comments against a South African player, Philander, which had also been hitting the headlines at that time. You, of course, had Steve Waugh versus Parthiv Patel. Waugh, of course, tells Patel that make my test debut when you were in your nappies. This is just few of the examples which have been coming in when it comes to the sledging examples. In fact, Kohli, as we were just discussing, he of course was awarded 1 demerit point. What does that mean? Did he get off lucky or was he penalised too much? Let me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Melinda Farrell, who is a cricket presenter. She's joining us live from Orange in Australia. We also have Alan Sippy, who's a former cricketer. Well, first I'm going to be coming across to Melinda. Melinda, it's very interesting, this kind of a controversy that we have seen. He has been given level 1 offence, 1 demerit point. He was fined, Virat Kohli was fined 20% of his match fees by the ICC. Do you think that's fair enough?
Well, look, it's an interesting one. You would say that the regulations that should apply and the penalties that apply for offences should be uniform and applied equally across the board. We all know that there are contexts, though, and that some series are perhaps a little bit more politically sensitive than others are. And I certainly think that both sides, as far as India and Australia, and undoubtedly everyone involved behind the scenes, would have been happy to see Virat Kohli not suspended. Now, they should, as I say, apply equally. What I would be doing if I was a team around the world is pointing to this if there's another incident in the future and say, well, hang on a second, this incident this is by now, precedent that you've set.
Okay.
This is a one demerit fine and a 20% match fee reduction. So whether or not that is perhaps a little bit lenient, it might be seen as lenient. I think 4 points would have been on the really harsh side, and 4 points would have seen him miss out on the Sydney test. So maybe somewhere in the middle. But however they apply the regulations and the punishment for this particular incident, they need to be consistent and they need to do it across the board. And that's where the arguments might come in, where people think, well, someone else was treated more harshly in the past. So that's probably where they could get themselves into a bit of a tricky situation if this kind of thing happens again. And we don't want to see it happen.
Well, absolutely. Melinda, I absolutely agree with you that the rules must apply for all. But it's interesting that you use the word politically sensitive. Are you implying that Virat Kohli got away easy, that they went lenient on him because of political considerations?
I guess I mean in the past we've seen, in series in the past where things have blown up. The tour to Australia where India almost left in the end, and that became a massive issue that kind of echoed down through years and is still talked about years later. And that's the sort of blow-up situation that I don't think anyone would want. I'm certainly not saying that the ICC would go leniently, or Andy Pycroft, who is the match referee, would go leniently just because it's Virat Kohli. So I'm certainly not going to say that. But I just think that both of the sides would be happy if it kind of calmed down and went away, and they're not going to kick up a fuss about it. If Australia could have gone to they could have gone to the ICC and made a case for the harshest possible penalty. I don't think they're going to do that, because I think everyone would agree that they would want to see Virat Kohli play in that series. So that's what I mean by sensitive. Just no one would want to create a really big situation and go out of their way to blow this up to the nth degree. Now, does that happen with every other series? I don't know. But this is a marquee series and it's a very big deal. So I just think both camps would be quite happy to walk away and say, okay, that's the penalty you've given, fine, let's move on.
Yes, I'm sure all of us want to see Virat Kohli on the pitch. Who doesn't? Even Australians. Let's not forget, he's got big fans in Australia as well. Well, of course, you have Sam, who's one of them. But now I'm going to come across to you, Alan Sippy. Would you agree that perhaps there were a lot of other reasons also which were weighing? Because let's not forget, one of the things that ICC very clearly said is that Virat Kohli never tried to defend himself. He admitted to it. There was no need for a hearing because of that. Is that something which went in his favour? Don't you think that perhaps a suspension from the Sydney match, which is coming up, would be a bit too harsh? After all, he's admitted to it.
Frankly, Meghna, I think it's been handled pretty well. I do agree that this is definitely Virat's fault, because Virat changed the course and actually bumped into him. He actually, just bumped into him. This is not sledging. Sledging is fine in the past. This is actually a person who's trying to, chest bump somebody. It's not done. It's actually, Virat must be regretting this. I can only imagine that Virat over the years has always played cricket with aggression. For him, on the field, everything is all about aggression. And I think that's what he takes this, sometimes takes it a bit too far. Yes, I think that Sam Konstas, this is a generational talent. This is an amazing cricketer. This is a once in a lifetime cricket. What Virat would have seen on the pitch, batting, and seeing this boy take to Bumrah, take to everyone, and take them with, he was just playing them nonchalantly. So Virat would have got a little bit flustered, thinking that, who is this new champ on the ground? Who is this guy? Let me just do something. Yes, he did something wrong. He regrets it because he admitted it. I think the big plus was Sam Konstas, because when he came out, he could have easily said that Virat did this wrong and that wrong. He diffused the situation beautifully. He said clearly that it was an accident. He helped Andy Pycroft to make this decision. He helped Virat to get away lightly. I think it's well done by Australia. They handled it beautifully. Everybody loves Virat Kohli. Everybody wants Virat Kohli to play cricket, and this is good for the game. Let's move on. Yes, he has been handled and handled well.
But Alan Sippy, I'm sure you've been following this entire controversy in India very closely, because many here have been saying that it's rather ironical to have Australia and a lot of the cricketers, the former cricketers who've been very critical of Virat Kohli for being aggressive, for showing bad behavior, considering it's Australia, the kind of history that the two nations have had. And I'll take that across to Melinda. Melinda, isn't it interesting? Many are saying here, can Australia really take a higher moral ground on this?
Exactly, and that's the danger, isn't it? That this is why it's important that the regulations are kind of adhered to, and that they have those in place, because we just descend into this whataboutery, and it goes back, and then incidents from 10 years, 20 years end up being brought out. And I don't think any side in the world really ever has moral high ground when it comes to these kinds of things. And Australia has had plenty of bad behaviour and aggressive behaviour in the history of cricket, and I think you'd have to be naive to deny that. But what you want to do is you want the game to be played in a hard, tough, fair way where teams are showing passion and going for it, but that certain things don't happen, and certainly anything physical is kind of where you draw a line. And so I don't think anyone should really get caught into saying, well, what about this from then and what about this from then? It's going to happen, but take each incident as it is and deal with that incident in isolation in the fairest way possible, and then kind of apply that across the line. That's the ideal, and hopefully throughout the rest of this series we won't see another incident like this.
Both the sides are known for their aggression. However, Alan CP, were you somehow surprised that it was Virat Kohli? He's of course known for his aggression. He's also appreciated and garnered a lot of support and fans because of his aggression. However, he has been mellowing down. 2019, you had Kohli asking the Indian fans to stop jeering Steve Smith during the World Cup for his involvement in the sandpaper gate. Then there were several such instances which had been coming in where you see the aggression. Virat Kohli so far, however, hasn't been penalised too much, rarely been penalised by the on-field officials for his behaviour, aggression aside. Were you surprised this time around at this stage when he's so very experienced, he's mellowed down over the years to take on a debutant, a 19-year-old boy?
Virat Kohli, you see, has two sides. When he steps on the pitch, he's a different animal. He's an aggressive cricketer. He likes to play that way. That fires him up. And off the field, I know him I know him reasonably well. Off the field, he's a wonderful human being. He's so compassionate to people. He's so loving to people. He's a wonderful family man. So everything is right about him off the field. On the field, he becomes something different. He likes to take the aggression to the opponent. And there's nothing wrong with that. What he did today was actually, not hurting someone, actually touching someone. You should not be touching an opposition. You should not be doing that. Sledging is fine, but mocking someone is fine because that's part of the game. But to actually chest bump somebody, that's totally wrong. I think he regrets it. I think he's a smart enough man. He's a wonderful human being. He will know from now that he did wrong. He will actually, I won't be surprised, he'll go to Sam Konstas and apologize to him, because that's how Virat Kohli is. Off the field, he's a wonderful human being.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's been handled well. It's been handled very, very well by the ICC. So we should move on from this.
It's been handled well by Virat Kohli by admitting when he felt that he was in the wrong. And also Sam Konstas, that 19-year-old, he handled it very well, isn't it? Melinda, my final question to you. What was your first reaction when he came out and said, Virat Kohli's been one of my idols and it was all about just cricket?
I think he's one of the most level-headed, mature 19-year-olds going around. How many 19-year-old boys do you know? Well, this guy has just come out. He's made his debut in front of more than 80,000 people at the MCG. Kohli, too, is his hero. He's his favourite player. He's always said that. And all of a sudden, he's involved in an incident with the guy that he has idolised. He stood his ground. He didn't overreact. He didn't, come back at him or anything, and stayed pretty calm, I thought. And then when he was asked about it, you know, he said, oh, what happens on the field stays on the field. He was pretty understanding. And, you know, he was in the press conferences. He was being interviewed on live TV. Thought he handled himself pretty well and dealt with some pretty tough questions just as well as he dealt with Jasprit Bumrah with the new ball, to be honest.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Melinda, as well as Alan Sippy. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But I think all of us can agree that, yes, cricket is a religion from India. Our cricketers are the gods. At times, gods can be fallible as well. There may be mistakes, but that kind of aggression which comes with the humility that Virat Kohli has also shown today by admitting to his mistake. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. With that, a short break. Don't go anywhere.